Hey, let's get this fire started. Um, I'm Scott with Main Oven Craft, and we're going to go over basic fire lighting techniques, wood choice, how to stack it, how to actually get it going, and then manage it a little bit. And then we'll do another series on actual fire management inside the oven for a duration to achieve different ends, different temperatures for different durations. First things first, though, we need to select our kindling. So we're going to take a walk out to the wood shop and find some choice spruce to split down for the beginning. Little trick with softwood and dimensional lumber. Dimensional lumber often, especially these days when we're not dealing with super high quality wood anymore, is knots make it harder to split. So if you have a selection of softwood to choose from, try to find a section of the wood that has the least amount of knots, because it'll be the easiest to actually convert into small pieces. But I'm going to dig into our bin here. We've got a couple of good options of some 2x6, and you can see that it's fairly straight grained, and you'll see in a minute that it's easy to split. All right, so the key in this structure or crib that we're going to build is the first layer, which we'll use the three most consistent, these pieces of ash that I split up, and we're going to put them front to back as the first layer. And what makes this important is that these will act like the runners on a sled when this fire and this crib is established and consumed by flame. We can actually push this whole thing and it will stay together to the rear of the oven, and then we can add um, additional wood on top of it while it still has its structure. So those first three pieces will go there, and then just like building a log cabin, we're going to go crisscross the other way with our additional wood. And I'd say I spend quite a bit of intention on this particular part of the task, because if this stays together, it really makes for a really successful quick fire. And again, our door height is our limiting factor here. We can do one more layer of softwood, and then if we have room, we can add one single piece of maybe two, we'll see, pieces of hardwood on top. Just scoot that in. So it's pretty structurally sound and ready to be lit. I prefer a propane torch over a fire starter. Definitely over newspaper or magazine print, which has a lot of ink in it. I try to keep what I put in the oven super pure, and a torch lights it just as fast or faster than a fire starter, and I don't have to be concerned about whether there's a paraffin or some other ingredient in the fire starter that might present also sort of a toxic issue inside the oven. So I'll go ahead and light this. And start at the bottom. And the beauty of softwood, spruce in particular, pine, is the resin. It lights very, very quickly, maybe even 15 seconds, and we'll have enough flame that we can turn the torch off and walk away for a little bit while it establishes. But again, this proximity underneath the throat of the oven is super important. The fire doesn't have to work hard at all in order to exhaust in this early stage. We're all good. So we can let that, that fire develop for maybe the first, I don't know, 3 or 4 minutes. Technically, we could push this fire this crib right now, just a little bit. In a larger oven, you might push it in like 2 or 3 sequences. You push it in 15, 20 inches, especially with a cold oven. You'd see the fire die down, and then let it sit there for a couple minutes, reestablish, get its strength back, heat its immediate area, and then push it back again, maybe watch it struggle again as it tries to heat an even larger environment. Right now, this environment is only this big, the arch of the doorway, so it's very easy for this fire to build up heat. We'll use these pieces on the floor as sort of a teepee style build on top of this crib once we push it into the oven. So I don't even think we might be at a minute, and it's drafting well. The entire crib is engaged. My structure is basically the width of my rake, which I'm used to at this point, but essentially if these 3 pieces are wider than what you're pushing, a little cheat is to grab a small piece of kindling and put it in front as sort of a push stick, which will bridge the gablets. So I'll use that as an example. And we'll go ahead and push softly. You can see as it gets into the colder oven, it kind of slows down a little bit, the velocity of the burn. And it'll spend a little bit of time heating up that larger area. And then we'll go ahead and push it in again once the fire looks healthy and strong and vibrant, and that, you know, ultimately it's like there are a lot of visual cues. The fire will look happy. Right now it looks pretty smoky in there. The smoke is, you know, this is down low. As the fire gets hotter, the smoke layer will increase in height. You can see it's already picking up some intensity. What you want to do is be able to move this crib before the integrity of the spruce, of the softwood, is gone, before it turns into coals. So, and that's pretty quick. If we had spent more time and split up, you know, let's say we found 2 or 3 more pieces of hardwood like ash or beech or something like that, split it up fine, use that as our kindling, we would have more time to kind of play with this crib or leave it in one spot before losing the integrity of those pieces. I think we're good. You can see that it's cleaned up a bit. The smoke level is a little bit higher. It's less thick. And this oven's small enough, this is Model 83, that we can probably push it to the rear in one push now. And that's where it will live. And at this point, I'm going to go ahead and give it a puff of air. Just kind of blow the ash off the deck there that was left from that, cleaned it up. And before the fire gets too intense, I'm going to grab these pieces of hardwood, I'm sorry, that I had on the floor, and I'm going to actually place them by hand in around the fire quickly, but I can still do it. I can still get my arm in there without scorching it. Though another way to do it that's a little safer is to use the smallest peel you have, and grab it about, just like if the wood's 16 inches long, you're kind of on the back end of it, so you have the ability, it's not quite falling off, but the front of it is available to set on your crib. And like I said, I build mine kind of in a teepee style, so that naturally as the crib, the integrity of it starts to shift, everything kind of falls in on itself. And you can see it's already brightening up and looking cleaner. I'm gonna go grab another small piece. Let's see if we can scoot this one in there without it. That's a pretty good chunk of wood to get things going with, and realistically with that size fire, we could probably go 30 minutes without having to add more. Once this burns down after 30 minutes, there'll be probably 60 to 70% coals, and there'll be some flame left, and we can consolidate the coals and decide whether we're going to fire in the rear or fire on the side. And that's sort of personal preference, and we can get into that in another video. But essentially, once it gets pushed, then it's a matter of what kind of temperature do I want, how much more wood do I need to add to get to whatever application is that I'm going to use the oven for. Looks healthy, simple, and strong and vibrant. Infrared thermometer goes a long way towards giving you the feedback to tell you what temperature you're at right now. We're at 350, which in this reality is only skin deep. It may be that the only, the top millimeter or less of the thickness of the hearth is at that temperature. Everything below that very quickly declines. So the longer we have the fire in there, the more deep that heat is driven into the hearth and into the dome. And one of the big indicators that you can use for a visual cue is when the fire cleans up and there's less smoke and the dome starts to turn white, which is a process called pyrolysis. It tells you that the surface of the brick, the clay, has reached 1,000 degrees or more. And that, again, that's skin deep. It's not telling you the overall environmental temperature, but it's telling you that you've saturated the material enough that the carbon can finally burn off. And that's usually in a hot fire like this, somewhere around the 40 to 50 minute mark. Maybe you might start see it in a smaller spot earlier on, especially if you're burning really aggressively. But usually you can get the whole oven to go white in an oven this size in about an hour. And it's really, again, what it is that you're trying to cook, and that determines what kind of fire you have and how long it's in there.